You know, I like to consider myself proudly as a control freak. Every detail I like to have control over. I don't like to leave things to chance when I step inside a courtroom. John clearly, during a period where he had a lack of confidence in our defense and me, had this cockamamie idea that the government would be so desperate to speak to a Gotti, him, as a cooperator, that they would possibly agree to meet with him, do a debriefing, learn some information, and potentially give him a very low plea offer so that we could get out of the case. And I said, listen to me. You have to testify. You can't walk in there and be a cooperator unless, A, you don't go in with the agenda. They ask you all the questions, and you're forced to answer every single question, including about your family, and B, that you're willing to testify. These are the ground rules that have been existing since the beginning of time if anybody wanted to be a federal cooperator. No, no, no. They're going to want me. I'm going to be able to give them this and that. Nothing real, all garbage. You'll see. I said to him, you're making the biggest mistake. This is a huge mistake. I mean, it could not have been more obvious that this was a disaster. And my initial reaction, I spoke to Mark Furnish, who was my partner on the case, and I said, look, we didn't get hired to do this case to cooperate John Gotti. I said, this will be the end of our careers. I said, I'm willing to do, a lot for John. I said, but this is sheer madness. If I thought that it could potentially work, maybe, but he's giving me a list of subjects that he wanted to talk about. Go to the government, tell them that we're willing to talk about A to E, these 5 or 6 subjects, and it was garbage. It was a shooting in 1982. It was some graft in 1986. It was implicating someone who was dead. It was talking about a bar fight, pinning the blame on who did a murder, on people that were, dead, that weren't there. Frankly, it was craziness. So I said to Mark, we can't do this. I can't let my career end this way for just this pure folly. So I said to John, I quit. I can't do this. This is crazy. And John, this is how John is he's not the kind of guy. This is the difference between father and son. I suspect that if I had gone to John Gotti Sr. and said, by the way, I quit, God knows what would have happened to me. It was different with the son. He was just a different guy. He was somebody that you could talk to. He was a regular guy. And I said, this is madness. I can't do this. He understood. I'll find someone that will do this for me. And I took a few days thinking about it. And I thought, well, this is never going to work. His plan of basically tricking the government, it's never going to work. Eventually, the rubber's going to meet the road, and they're going to ask him to testify. He never would agree to it. The whole thing was stupid. So I thought about it, and I said, you know what? Here's a guy. He had, I think, 5 children at the time. I don't know how many he's got now, 12, 16. He had a lot of kids, a lot of young kids. And I was like, who am I to decide that I'm more important in this equation than John? Yes, I disagreed with it completely. If I was a better lawyer, a better advocate, I would have been able to talk him out of it. I couldn't talk him out of it. He said, just call them and see if they're willing to speak to me. I said, I'm not going to abandon you. I came back and I said, I'll do it. I said, I disagree with it completely. It makes no sense and it's not going to work. But you were loyal to me. You hired me when nobody else would have hired me for a case like this. I'm not leaving your side. You're stuck with me. And I called up the prosecutors, and it's really hoping that they would laugh in my face because the plan was so idiotic. And they were like, are you kidding? You're willing to bring John in? I said, yeah. I said, but here's the ground rules. I'm going to give you the subjects beforehand. If you're willing to listen to them, we're willing to come in. I said, that's all he's willing to talk about. I suspect they believe that once John got in and started talking about these fictions, which is basically what it was, that he would loosen up and decide to become a real cooperator. They never should have allowed it. It was completely against their internal rules. I've never heard of a prosecutor allowing the potential witness to set the agenda as opposed to the other way around and tell them, this is what we're willing to do and no more. They agreed to it. I remember when they agreed to it. I remember like it was yesterday. I was in my bedroom and Duke was playing North Carolina State on the TV, and I was getting physically sick to my stomach. And Mark furnished, to his credit, a loyal dog that he was, said, if you want to do it, we'll do it. We wouldn't let anybody else on the team do it and know about it. That was it. We were gonna take the bullets. We knew this was gonna end badly. I remember thinking, this is never gonna work out. We're gonna have this proffer that's gonna be reduced to writing, and somewhere along the line, some idiot is going to leak this, and I'm gonna be the one held responsible. And I felt, again, you know what? That's all right. I'll have to survive. I'll get over it. He trusted me. I'm gonna trust him. Maybe I shouldn't have. I did. And we went into the debriefing. I wouldn't say that it was an utter debacle. I would say that it was mostly a debacle. They were basically just like, well, what else do you have? And I'm like, that's all he's talking about. You know, none of it made any sense. And as we walked out, I asked for a minute alone with John. And I was like, what just happened? What did we do? This was so stupid. This isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. And John, John is a persuasive guy. In another life, he would have been a very good defense lawyer. John is the kind of guy that can convince you that the sky is green. But John, the sky is blue. I'm looking at it right now. No, the sky is green. Trust me, the sky is green. And he was like, don't worry about it, brother. I got this covered. This is going to work out just fine. And I'm like, it's really not. It's really not. And in my mind, all I'm thinking of is I've wasted 2 weeks of my life with this garbage that I know isn't going to work. I really need to get back to my cross-examinations because I'm going to trial in this case. So the government talked to me on the phone a couple more times. They're like, well, the stuff that he gave us, it's really nothing. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, is he willing to talk about this thing and that thing and this crime? I'm like, no. Is he willing to testify? No. And they said, well, we can't use him. I said, I get it. I said, so are we done with this now? They're like, of course we're done with it. So I went back to John and said, well, that was a failure. So can we get back to working on the case? And that was really the beginning, middle, and